Herzlich willkommen den Zuschauerinnen und Zuschauerinnen bei Israel Inside. Und ich habe die große Freude, dank Global Israeli Leadership, heute in Tel Aviv Hilik Bar zu begrüßen. Und er ist ein Mann aller Welten, also er ist schon familiär, ist er halb Marokkaner, wie er gesagt hat, und halb Aschkenazi. Aber auch in seiner politischen Arbeit kennt er alles. Also er war mit George W. Bush zusammen auch als Berater für Ökonomie und internationale Beziehungen, was er auch studiert hat. Er war Generalsekretär der Israelischen Arbeiterpartei. Ich kann das gar nicht alles aufzählen, sondern gebe gleich auch an Ethan Drury nach Australien, der Hilik gut kennt und ihn auch besser als ich selber einführen kann. Ich danke euch, dass ihr dabei seid, Interesse habt, direkt auch aus Israel in dieser schwierigen Zeit Informationen aus erster Hand zu bekommen. Vielen Dank.
Thank you, Wycliffe, for the hospitality as usual every week now since the beginning of the war on the 7th of October. We have the tradition now every week to host a distinguished speaker from Israel who can give us a better understanding of the situation. I felt to have former Deputy Speaker of the Knesset, Hilik Bar, as a significant speaker and someone who could really give us the best presentation. Bar is one of the, I would say, most distinguished young former politician. I think that he made a pause. We always hope to see him back to lead Israel in different circumstances than now. Major influence on the young generation, very great supporter of the Israeli diaspora worldwide. And just to give a little bit of background, Hilik was, before being Deputy Speaker of the Knesset, he was the General Secretary of the Labour Party between 2010 and 2017. He was a member of the Knesset Committee for Foreign Affairs and Defense. And before that, just imagine, because you take a lot of delegations, Wycliffe, to Israel, he was in charge in the early stage of his career of tourism in Jerusalem during the, I would say, flourishing of the city of Jerusalem to become really what she is in the center of everyone's dreams to be in Jerusalem. It doesn't matter of which religions. So I would like to say hi to our very close friend Hilik, a friend of mine, a friend of Yoram, and to ask him to give us his point of view on, I would say, the processing of relations between the Palestinians as people and the state of Israel, and of course to elaborate on the current situation today. Hilik, please.
Well, thank you very much, Eitan and Wycliffe and Yoram. That's truly a great pleasure being here with you and trying to explain a little bit the situation that we're facing in Israel right now, these horrible days. For us as a nation, as a people, but also a very optimistic days for a better future. And I want to thank you for the Hasbara advocacy for Israel that you are doing, because unfortunately today there is a huge, huge amount of hypocrisy and misunderstanding of the Israeli situation, hearing from leaders in Europe, in Asia, around the world, how wrong Israel is doing, while they would never, ever allow a situation like happened in Israel to happen in their countries. And if something would happen in their countries like happened in Israel, I'm pretty sure that the reaction of almost every state on the globe would be much, much, much more difficult than Israel. You know, as Yoram and Eitan and myself was in the IDF, I'm myself still a captain in reserve in the IDF. We know how the IDF is acting, why the IDF, justifyingly so, described as a very, very moral army, maybe the most moral in the world. We're witnessing even today the actions that the Israeli IDF is taking in order to have as less casualties we can from from innocent population. But to answer Eitan's questions about the relation between Israelis and Palestinians, you know, Eitan, that I'd published many years ago a diplomatic outline that is trying to solve and put in place Israel-Palestinians relations. Where can it go? How can we solve the conflict? But, and I will not elaborate on it right now, of course, but the main assumption that I always said about the Israeli-Palestinian relations is that the Palestinians are split to two kinds of Palestinians. The first kind is those who want to live here next to us. And the second kind is those who want to live here instead of us. Now, we do have an obligation as Israelis to do everything in our power to find any path or any route to make peace or some arrangement with those Palestinians who want to live here next to us, because they are here, they will not disappear, and they should also understand that Israel is here to stay. That's a fact, and it will always be a fact. However, we have nothing to deal with, but absolutely nothing to deal with the Palestinians who decided as an agenda to live here instead of us. And unfortunately, in October 7th, we witnessed the pure and essence of evil of those Palestinians, of those Hamas crazy jihadist, truly animal, barbaric monsters that not only declaring for years that they are here to live instead of Israel, to wipe Israel out of the map, to eliminate all Jews, but they did actually an action that crossed all human borders and proved us once again that they belong to the Palestinians that don't want to live here next to us, but instead of us. And actually, I will tell you a secret, Redcliffe, they want to live here also instead of you, instead of German and British and Dutch people and Americans, of course. And most of the times when they burn Israeli flags, they burn also an American flag next to it. Those Islamic jihadists want to have Sharia rules, a crazy fundamental Islamic way of living in Europe, in America, and of course in the Holy Land of Israel, that as we see it, have place for everyone. And I want to know that Israel was maybe the first regime in the history of this land of thousands of years that respect the freedom of practicing of all religions. You know, Redcliffe, you are coming here with your fellow Christians. You feel in Jerusalem at home. And of course, many, many, many Muslims are coming every year and indeed living in Jerusalem and all around Israel together with Jews. As you mentioned in your opening, my parents, you know, my mother is an Ashkenazi who are half Polish, half British. And my father made immigration to Israel, Aliyah from Morocco, where also Jews and Muslims, most of the time, live together peacefully. Why? Because the regimes, back then, these Muslim states was a regime that respected the freedom of practicing and freedom of living and rights of Jewish people. It wasn't the case everywhere. It wasn't the agenda everywhere. We know regimes, both in Islamic states, Arab states, and of course in Europe that didn't respect that. But now, in the current history, once again, we are facing in the most brutal way with barbaric regimes that swear on their formal agenda, not in hidden scripts, the formal adopted agenda of Hamas is to eliminate Israel, is to kill all Jews from the river to the sea. And this is why Israel needs to understand that what happened before October 7th, the life we knew before October 7th, will never ever be again like the life we will have after October 7th. And this is right for the inside infrastructures and society of Israel, but this is mainly right about how we see our enemies and why we now have a total obligation to eliminate those dark, barbaric forces of Hamas, of Islamic Jihad, that of course is nurturing from the mother of evil today, Iran, that give billions of dollars and money to those people that have nothing good to do with this money. And one more thing I want to tell you about Hamas and Gaza and Israel, and this is to all the hypocrite leaders around the world. You know, in 2005, Israel made a very, 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 I don't know if brave, if stupid, but very brave action. We actually disconnected ourselves from Gaza after many years and generations of Jewish people that lived in Gaza and prospered in Gaza. They had agricultural farms and education and high tech. And we turned away thousands of families from Gaza, people that was born in the Gaza Strip. And we evacuated the entire Gaza Strip from any absence, any Jewish soul that was there. No one Jewish citizen or soldier was living there after 2005. It created a huge trauma in the Israeli society, but we overcome it, I hope. And we gave the leadership the option to do it. And after that, actually Gaza was given from the European Union, from the US, definitely from Qatar, the Emirates, Arab states, Muslim states, billions of dollars, literally billions of dollars throughout the years to recover Gaza, to live. Now Gaza is a small place, 64 kilometers coastline. People said that it's the most beautiful beach and coast in Israel. It could become the next Singapore of the Middle East. And instead, they elected Hamas to govern them. And these Hamas jihadist animals, what they did with those billions of dollars, instead of making it Singapore of the Middle East, instead of investing it in hospitals, in schools, in affordable housing, there is very poor people living there, in developing the tourism, the beaches, the restaurants, everything. They put 100% of the money in creating an underground terror state, terror city of self-developing weapons, of importing weapons. They put 100% of terror on terror while they could invest it on their own people. But as we knew for many years, and now you know because we are seeing in the last few days interviews with the leaders of Hamas, they admit themselves that they don't care about their people. They use their people as human shields. They said that these people are victims, are necessary victims for their war against Israel and Zionism. They actually deliberately put their most strongest bases of terror under hospitals, under a populated place, knowing that the Israeli IDF, if he wants, as I mentioned, those billions, really billions of dollars was not invested in order to make Gaza a better place, a heaven for Palestinians, a place who are taking care of its civilians, and they chose to invest these billions of dollars they got from all around the world in terror tunnels, in an underground city of terror in order to launch successful attacks like we witnessed on Israel. These people do not wish to have an Israeli-Palestinian peace. These people do not wish to have good life, definitely not for the Israelis, but also not for their Hamas, for their people in Gaza. And what I mentioned, and I hope you heard me, is that their leaders actually in the last interviews they gave in the last few days admitted that they don't care about their citizens, that they see the citizens as martyrs for the cause of Hamas. And this is why when Israel effort is to eliminate Hamas, we are not doing only the necessary thing for Israel. First and foremost, the immediate way is to protect Israel. But we are also making a big favor to the Gazan people, to the mothers and fathers and children of Gaza that don't deserve to live such a horrible life under the rule of butchers of Hamas. And we also do a very big favor, and this is, you should know, in Germany also, to the Western world, because if the Western world puts as a target to live a life of free, of liberal values, of respecting the others, these people are enemies to every value that we're having. So I don't know how much time I have, but I think I will put an end here and let you ask some questions. But this is more or less how I see the necessity that Israel have to eliminate Hamas for our favor and for the favor of the Gazan people and the rest of the world.
Thank you very much, Hilik. In the beginning, you tried to make a separation between Palestinians who are willing to live with Israel and Palestinians who want to destroy Israel. I think it's difficult to separate between the groups. I saw from Gaza a video on 7th of October, youngsters and also old men are coming to the kibbutzim and villages in the Gaza belt, and they weren't terrorists, but they also came and murdered and feel the sympathy with the Hamas. How is it possible to find groups who are willing to live with Israel and the groups who have to be destroyed from power or physically destroyed?
Look, this is not Israel's task to make this. It's not our job to make this difference between those and this. We are just mentioning a fact. You should decide, Palestinians, as a society, as leadership, as people, as Muslims, as Arabs, if you want to live here next to us or instead of us. Okay? Now you should know, if you want to live here instead of us, it will never ever happen. We will not allow it, not in a million years. But if you will prove as a society, de facto, that you have a wish and understanding to live here next to us, we, as an Israelis, have an obligation to try and find the way to do so because you are here, whether we like it or not. But to your question, Redcliffe, you know, as a way of life, I never make generalization. I never said all the Muslims or Arabs are evil, all the Germans are this, all the Jews are that, because it's just not true. I truly believe that there are good people and bad people. And by the way, I met in my life in several occasions Palestinians who understand that Israel is not a big devil, and that in secret and hidden rooms they are telling us, me, that they wish and pray that Israel will eliminate these crazy animals of Hamas and like Islamic Jihad, because they understand that these monsters of Hamas are also destroying their life. And yes, I guess in the Palestinian society, like in the German society and in the Israeli society, there are young people also that wants to live a normal and fair life, that wants to prosper, that want to study, that wants to go abroad. but it's also their duty to make their society better, to go against Hamas and like Hamas organization. It's not always easy because these Hamas barbaric terrorists are ruling with a lot of force, but there should be some action and proof from the Palestinian society that they understand that Israel is here to stay. But as long as they don't understand it, Israel don't have to apologize 1 minute, 1 second for protecting ourselves. And as any other state, we will do everything in our power to protect our families, our children, our beautiful state, and our way of life. So again, I'm not the one to say this Palestinian is good and this Palestinian is bad. It's on their shoulder to prove that they can be partner for maybe a future peace. And by the way, you know, whenever a Palestinian told me before, Israel don't want to make peace, my answer to him was always the same. I told him, my Palestinian friend, you know, not like the Palestinians, we Israelis proved that we are capable of having peace with Arab and Muslim state. We proved that where we had the right partner in Egypt, Anwar Sadat, and Jordan, King Hussein, and now with the Emirates and Bahrain and Morocco and other states, we proved that when we have in the other side a partner that understands that Israel is not the evil, but a good partner to be with, we made peace. But you Palestinians never proved it before. You missed many opportunities of having peace with Israel. As one of our prime ministers said, they never missed an opportunity to miss an opportunity. And this is why, if they will prove in the future that they change their ways and are willing to make peace with Israel, we have an obligation to try and make peace with them, but be confident in one thing. Even if we will have peace with the Palestinians and with the entire Arab world, let's say, yeah, we will never, ever be relying on anyone. We will always have to have a very, very, very strong borders and soldiers, an army, and intelligence, because as much peace we will have, we know that things can change, and we will always need to be relying on ourselves first, and then, of course, also to being back supported by our partners and allies like the US, like Europe, some countries, Germany, and others. But first, to rely on ourselves and be taking care of our own destiny forever and ever. But we're always open to better future if we will have partner in the other side.
My question to Hilik, you were for some years chairman of the caucus to resolve the Israeli-Arab conflict in the Knesset. Mm-hmm. And the one thing I remember you mentioned to me a few years ago, and I think that this is really essential to answer, is that once came a representative, one of your conferences that you attended in Europe, came a representative, if I'm not mistaken, the Palestinian authorities, and said to you, we didn't find it any more essential to have suicide bombing in the streets of Israel. We'll wait for you, in a way, to be divided domestically and see you weakening your position, and this will be much easier for us. I remember you in a way made an impact on me, thinking that a divide in the Israeli society could have helped the Palestinians. And when you see the judiciary process and the reform protests since the beginning of 2023, and then you said also, and in your column in 2015, you said something about we must recognize the Palestinians as a state and later on discuss borders. And you always saw as a vision that there is no way but a two-state solution. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, of course. So there are two parts of your question. One is, yes, definitely the Palestinians were witnessing destructive disputes that happened in Israel. again, we are proud that we are a democracy. We are proud that we're having a very hot inner discussion. This is what happened in democracies. We shouldn't apologize for that, and definitely it shouldn't justify any attack on Israel. And I don't think, by the way, that there is a huge connection between the two, because those Hamas people was training for decades to eliminate Israelis, to kill Jewish people, even much before the judicial reform. So to have that as an excuse for their evil, and even for timing, is not the right thing to do. We are a democracy. We have our gaps. We have our discussion. We have our inner disputes, and we're proud of it. This is why we are a democracy, and not like other countries in the Middle East. But again, this is something that will not change and should not have or play as an excuse for anyone on each side for what happening in October 7th. This evil is something that is not concerning the immediate disputes on Israel. But I did say in this conference, and you are right, that this Palestinian guy told me, listen, if we will just sit aside and see you killing each other inside the Israeli society, maybe you will finish Israel before we will finish you with suicide bombers. But you know what? I knew that it will not happen. I knew that Israel will overcome our inner disputes, and we did. And actually, Hamas, in a very twisted and brutal way, while he wanted to continue and divide and destroy the Israelis from inside, what he actually brought is for the Israeli society unified as never before. And when I see now the state of Israel, the Israeli people who help each other, who volunteer, who giving everything the society needs, the soldier needs, I never saw such a volunteering scale in Israel in my life. And actually, this is a very big present that was given to us, and it's exactly the opposite of what Hamas was aiming from happening to Israel. So I hope that the Israeli society and we will be very smart to remember what happened and to stay united and strong, because we have an amazing society, a strong society, strong people that are united so much, and when they know that the other one is in trouble, they're coming immediately, not only to recruit to the army. We know that there was now 150% recruitment to the army. The army had to send soldiers home because we didn't need so much soldiers. People over their age of recruiting begged for the army to take them and fight on our home, on our society, for our families. So this is something that makes me, as an Israeli, to be so proud to know that in good times, of course, but mainly in bad times, the Israelis can lie one on each other. And this is a present that not every society has, by the way, and we have it and we are proud of it. About your question about the two-state solution, look, I'm from those who believe that there is time for war and there is time for peace, okay? And without any doubt, right now it's time for war, and the hardest war we can have, the longest. I mean, there is no limits of time and of resources that the Israelis will put to our government to finish and destroy Hamas to the ground. We hear it from the people of Israel, from the mother of the soldiers, from their families, even from the families of the kidnapped people. And we hear it from the soldiers. When commanders come to the soldiers just this week in Gaza, the soldiers are warning the commanders, don't stop us. Let us finish the job, because we will not go back to Israel, to our family, before this job is done, before Hamas is destroyed. Because in other rounds with Hamas, we made this terrible mistake of leaving Hamas alive, 50%, 60%, 15%, 40%. This is a very, very bad plant that is growing if you leave even a little root of it alive, and then they know how to spill water and make it grow again. This time is a different story. This time our leader, our cabinet, our government, and our society and soldiers promised Hamas should be eliminated from definitely political power, controlling, governing Gaza, but also from the entire military abilities. Gaza should be dismantled from weapon, 100%. Of course, unfortunately, this is only in the hand of God. We cannot eliminate ideology. We cannot eliminate hatred and evil. So it's not a purpose for us to try to educate Hamas, because they will probably hate us all of their life. But this is their problem. It shouldn't be my problem. What we need to eliminate is their political power and their military power. And then, as second stage, if Gaza will be demilitarized and will be governed by some entity that will be able to take the life of the Gazan people to a better place, that will recognize fully the right of Israel definitely to exist, but also to protect itself. And they will prove, as I said, they will prove that there is a partner for peace in some places in the Palestinian Authority, in Gaza, in the West Bank. So Israel indeed have an obligation to try and solve the conflict and not just to manage it. It will not be easy. It will not be in any price, by the way. We will not achieve peace in any price. We will not be paying any price for peace, because the result of peace need to be that Israel will be fully secured and its borders forever and ever. But yes, out of the solutions on the table right now, I do believe that the two-state solution, again, it's not the time to speak about it. Now it's time for war. But at the end, it is the solution, as I wrote in my plan many years ago, a fully demilitarized, I wrote it 10 years ago, Palestinian state next to Israel with the almighty IDF army. Because, again, Israel today have peace with Arab and Muslim states, not organization. A peace agreement, any kind of agreement you make with a state. I do believe that if one day the Palestinian Authority, whatever will be left on Gaza and in the West Bank, will be a demilitarized state with a normal regime that will be part of the Arab world that is willing to live next to Israel, like Egypt, Jordan, the Emirates, Morocco, Bahrain, and others. So yes, we do have an obligation to think about the next stage and how we do normalize things with them, so they will have also an option to have a better and a prosperous life. And if they will have a better and prosperous life, the people of Gaza and the West Bank, I think that it can bring us also a better life. But again, this is not for now to discuss. Now there is one mission, and this is to win this war to the end.
Hilik, I used the opportunity to ask something a little aside, since you were also in the administration of Jerusalem, We have also we have a lot of Christians hearing the interview with you and your presentation, so I try to ask this. We have Christians in Jerusalem from Germany, and now they are terribly quiet, nothing to hear. I don't hear anything from them since 7th of October. But before, there were loud voices accusing Jews, Orthodox Jews, for spitting on Christians, for making the life in Jerusalem more and more difficult. What do you think about the situation primarily in Jerusalem, between Christians, Jews, and also Muslims in the religious perspective?
This is a very important question, Redcliffe. And, you know, as Jewish and Israeli, I was always very, very proud. I was always very proud that in Israel, democratic state, our regime was a state that allowed the freedom of practicing to Jews, to Muslims, definitely to Christians. And actually, we were so keeping it as a principle that we even forbidden Jews from going up to the Temple Mount, which is a holy place for us, because we didn't want to hurt the feeling of Muslims. This is how liberal it was. And when I saw, and as Eitan said, when I was a city councilor in Jerusalem for 5 years under Mayor Barkat, I was in charge of the tourism and of the holy places, and we took in a very serious way the mission to allow any believer from any faith to feel in Jerusalem at home. And we hosted millions of Christian pilgrims. I hosted a lot of them personally as city councilors, but also from Muslim states and, of course, the Muslims of Israel. And when I saw, Redcliffe, these stupid and evil, but very small stream of ultra-Orthodox Jews spitting on Christian pilgrims, I was ashamed. I was ashamed as an Israeli and as a Jew, because what he did is not a Jewish thing to do, and not an Israeli thing to do, and not a Zionist thing to do. I was ashamed, and I was proud that it took not a lot of time until the police and the political level reacted and make arrests and apologized for the leaders of this Christian group that was attacked. And I want to tell you that Israel should never ever tolerate one case like this again. And the punishing of these stupid, barbaric people that damage Israel and damage Judaism by doing this terrible thing, the punishment should be without mercy. So everyone else will see and learn that Jerusalem is home for all religions. And that you don't have to be a citizen of the state of Israel. You can come as a pilgrim, as a tourist. But if you will come from Germany or from Africa as Catholic or Protestant or whatever, you should feel at home first and very, very safe. And I'm happy and proud to say, Redcliffe, and you know it, that 99.9% of the times, this is the case. This phenomena of spitting of pilgrims is something new, is something we didn't know before. It was very narrowed. It was by very few stupid and evil people that I hoped that learned the lesson from the police and from the authorities. And I hope and pray that it will never happen again. And anyway, as a Jewish and as an Israeli, I'm telling you that I'm ashamed and sorry that even these small things happen, because this is not a Jewish thing to do, and this is not an Israeli thing to do. And I'm inviting all the pilgrims from Germany, from all around the world of Christianity, to come to Israel, to support Israel. This is your home. This is your holy places. This is where your religious leaders are in and was born, of course. And this is your home exactly. It is the religious home of any other Jew or Muslim that feel that this is his home. So again, my apology for this stupidity and evilness.
Thank you, Hilik, for your important sentences. Yoram, please try again.
Yes. So I have, I notice when people speak about peace, there are always war. It was before the first Intifada, the second Intifada with the Camp David, and now with Saudi Arabia. But, maybe people here ask for perspective. So what it's not time to speak about many things, but Hilik, you are very pragmatic person and politician, and you have now a lot of experience with the Emirates. Do you think Emirate or Bahrain can help sometimes in the future in Gaza for a better future?
Definitely. Look, I'm very proud that Israel made these Abraham Accords with Bahrain, with the Emirates first, and with Morocco and other. And we were very close to have normalization agreement with Saudi. And maybe some of the reasons of the timing of this barbaric attack of these monsters was in order to prevent an Israeli-Saudi normalization. But after it will be over, I think that the Emirates and the Israelis proved, and the Bahrain and Morocco proved, that when there is leadership in societies on both sides that wants to enjoy the advantages of peace and prosperity, we're making peace. And as you said, I'm very involved in the UAE. I'm visiting there a lot. I was there many times since we had agreement with them. And I see how the tourism and the business on many fields are prosper between the Israel and the UAE. And this is why I hope that one day after this war is over and we will clear Gaza of Hamas and terror, and the Palestinians will create some leadership that will understand that Israel is here to stay and will want to make a better life with us. Maybe the UAE, Bahrain, Morocco, Egypt, and Jordan, of course, maybe they have their ways and tools and the capacity to assist. Because again, if Israel is saying something to the Palestinians and telling them that it's good for them, it's nice. But when they hear it from their colleagues and brothers and sisters from the Muslim world, from the Arab world, when they show an example of, look how Morocco and Bahrain and the UAE made peace with Israel and the sky didn't fall, everything is okay. So maybe you should try it also, our fellow Palestinians. Maybe if the Palestinians will hear it from them, it will contribute. And as a fact, I know that they want to be involved in a solution between us and the Palestinians. But again, Yoram, it's even annoying me to talk on a solution between us and the Palestinians until these barbaric monsters in Gaza are all under the ground, but not safe in their tunnels, but under the ground for good. And then maybe after some time, we will be able to get our powers and be mentally free again to even discuss a beginning of relations or negotiations with some Palestinian entity on peace. Right now, the Israelis are in such a huge grief on what happened. We do need to say a word. Right now, we are in a huge grief on the hundreds and thousands of dead people. And of course, we should mention our 242 brothers and sisters that are in the captivity of Hamas, that are hostages in Hamas, babies, children, mothers, fathers, old people, Holocaust survivors. These animals took whatever they can with no mercy. And I'm happy and proud that the Israeli leadership said that we have two aims for this war against Hamas. One is to eliminate Hamas, and second is to bring all of our citizens and soldiers back to Israel. And until it will not happen, this war will not end. Point.
Yeah, I would like to ask you, without any assumption, but really with open mind and common sense, how do you see the day after? In the near future, immediately after, and how do you see, in a way, the Israeli society collecting or recollecting itself to the extent of working together?
Well, we touched it, but first I'm very optimistic about the Israeli society because I see now how united we are and how we are helpful to one another and how we are hosting and supporting and healing one another. And I remind you, Eitan, that's unfortunately not the first and not the second war Israel had. And Israelis and Jewish people throughout not only the 75 years we are a state, but since the day of the Bible, we always knew to overcome and prevail. Very, very big enemies. Everybody wanted to eliminate us, but nobody, thanks God, succeed to do it, and nobody will succeed to do it. So knowing the Israeli people, the inner strength of the Israeli people, the brave mothers and fathers and soldiers that we're having, the bounding for one each other, caring, knowing that it's not only me and me, but I have a big family of brothers and sisters, which is the entire Am Israel, it's the entire Israeli people. We are one. Knowing this as a Jew, as an Israeli, makes me very optimistic for the day after. In the day after, we will have to do two things. One is to heal our wounds. And when I'm talking about the day after, I'm talking about again and again, I would say, destruction of Hamas and bringing back all the entire hostages, civilians and soldiers, back to Israel. After this will happen, we will continue the healing process inside, and we will need to see what we're doing outside in order to make sure. Our focus will be to make sure that what happened in the October 7th will never happen, that it will not be possible technically, and it will not be possible even as an idea of the people that will live in Hamas. But again, we are not trusting only their good faith and ideas. We will have to make sure that in every mean we have, these breaking into our borders, go to our cities, butchering our people, go into homes and military bases, it will just be not possible. There are many military and other solutions that we are discussing now. I cannot elaborate, and of course I don't know all of them, but there is people that their task right now in Israel, formal people, is exactly to think about the day after, both as a society, but also in a way of how to not allow in any border of Israel. We didn't discuss the north, of course, of Hezbollah. This is another story. But from north and from south, nothing can ever happen again.
Just before Rickliff will take over and finish, I'd like to say to Yoram again, thank you so much for facilitating the connection with Rickliff. And the one thing that is for me most important, you're one of the only ones, Hilik, to use, instead of we will win, you always say we'll prevail. And I think that the word prevailing is the most characteristic. That's the nature of the state of Israel, nature of the people of Israel, is always prevailing after being in distress or under pressure, and that's our strength. And there is no more than to say it was a privilege to have you with the back to the Mediterranean Sea, and let's hope that we will see us all together on the beach of Tel Aviv, and thank you so much for the comprehensive of your presentation.
Amen. And if we ended this session before Rickliff will conclude, I just want to say two things very shortly. One is thank you, the three of you, for the work you are doing with your show and inside your communities, Israeli leadership, and German Christians, for Israel and for making our cause better understood in Israel. But the second thing, and most important, I want you also to use any power you have, any power we have, to not let anyone forget these 240 Israelis in the captivity of Hamas. The most important thing today is to bring them back home and to explain the world that they are there, and to make any effort in every government and every society to do everything in their capacity to bring these 240 Israelis. And again, they are from 88 Holocaust survivor women to a 10-month-old baby. These are the scale of people that are in the captivity of Hamas without normal life, light, food, and who knows, God knows, I don't want even to think what may happen to them while they are there. So please make any effort you can to have this subject of our captive people on the agenda of the German society, of the European society, and make everything you can so we will see our brothers and sisters, the entire 242, back home, safe, Bezrat Hashem, with us in Israel. Thank you.
I just want to thank you, Hilik, for your last sentence. We do all what we can, but it's important to have also people like you. I know, I must admit that I got to know Eitan in Berlin, and then he recruited me also for the board of the Israeli organization. And then I get to know you, Hilik, and I'm very happy that you came today, because you are one of the political and people in Israel who are very pragmatic and in which I can trust and Israel can trust, and we hope for a better future.
Thank you.
Yeah. There's still a lot of room to intensify, to strengthen the ways to help Israel to bring the captives free back to Israel. So I hope we can do a little bit for it. Thank you, Hilik, for your time. And I was happy to see the Israeli flag behind your balcony, behind you. And I wish you that time the flag will blow more proudly than in the past, and a flag that will be a flag of shalom and peace. Thank you very much, Hilik.
Thank you.
Amen. Thank you very much. Thank you.